Hello and welcome to another episode of Nyboe's Pod. This time I have a guest coming to Denmark for just a few days.
Yep.
So really happy to have you here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Vaitea. I'm a world citizen, although I live in Italy currently. And I'm a MC, DJ, hip-hop head. That's it.
Yeah. But as you said, you live in Italy now, but you lived several places.
I live several places. I was born on the other side of the world in New Zealand. And then I moved back to Italy with my parents. But then I lived in Paris, where I got to meet and interact with a lot of French hip-hop pioneers too. And then I moved to London about 10 years ago, and I spent 2 or 3 years there. Yeah, so I like to discover new places.
Yeah, of course. So, about discovering, how did you discover hip-hop and music and vinyl and all that stuff? Did you grow up in a household that had parents listening to vinyl or collecting vinyl?
Not really. My parents were listening to cassettes mostly, but they were listening to good music. So hip-hop, soul, not hip-hop, was soul, jazz.
What was sampled by hip-hop, more or less?
Yeah. And then my father was playing guitar with Tahitian musicians.
Okay.
So word music and good sounds. So I've been blessed with that. And then when I was in school and I was about 12, 13 years old, a friend of mine, because I was writing poetry and I really loved rhyming and words, a friend of mine introduced me to LL Cool J, I Need Love.
Yeah.
And that really struck me. I was like, this is what I want to do in my life. It's like rhyming over rhythm. That's my thing. It was clear for me, yeah.
Also, I think that track at that point sort of differentiated itself because it was about love and it was sort of a thing in that sort of macho culture that kind of didn't fit into that and also could go further. Funny enough, that was actually the first hip-hop track I actually also heard.
Oh, really? That's funny.
I really have an affinity for that track due to that. It was really... I think it really...
But I was listening to reggae before listening to hip-hop.
Okay.
And then I got in touch with a lot of writers. So that was my introduction to hip-hop culture, basically.
Yeah.
And then I started realizing that in hip-hop, there were a lot of vinyl records involved. And I already liked buying records. So it was just straight for me, just so natural to buy hip-hop records and starting enjoying the whole vibe, digging vibe,
Yeah, but you were emceeing for the first a long time before you started singing, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely, because when I was about 16, 17, I started, as I say, writing rhymes that I could rap on records, basically. And I started freestyling too. I discovered freestyling, and I was one of the only few females that were rapping and that were freestyling also in Italian.
And what year are we talking about?
I don't want to spoil my age, but it was like, no, I'm
approximately,
kidding. Early 90s, early 90s, yeah.
Yeah, early 90s seems, I don't know, was freestyle a big thing in Italy back then?
It was, actually.
Because seemed to be in Denmark. Really
well, you gotta understand, I don't know about Denmark, but in Italy, the hip-hop scene was very small and very, very underground. So we all knew each other because there were so few people that you would recognize someone just by him wearing a baggy or, having like a bit of paint in his hands, and you'd be like, okay, that's a writer. And you could start talking, and then after a while, you'd be like, hey, so what's your tag,
I sort of missed that if someone wore specific clothes, you knew that you could talk to them.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, dress codes or just attitude codes, I would say.
Yeah. But it's funny because Italy is quite a big country that it could be that small, the culture. It makes sense for me that like in Denmark, where it's such a small country, that the scene would be really, really small.
I think it has to do with the culture. Italy is a country where people like disco. They like fast stuff. Now it's
like
a lot
a really
of houses
party scene,
and techno.
maybe?
Yeah, but it was just the whole hip hop culture has been underground till, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. the early 2000, maybe 2005, 2008. That's when we started having the first hip-hop magazine, at the kiosk that you could buy, distributed nationally. But first, it was just a fanzine. So I started freestyling, and it was funny because at that time, the freestyle in a hip-hop stage would mean that there would be a hip-hop artist, and then the DJ would spin 20 minutes about of instrumentals.
Like an open mic.
Like an open mic, sort of. But the thing is that I was the only girl. So guys were like, pointing their elbows, like, trying to grab the mic because there were only these 15, 20 minutes of open mic. And every time they were like, oh, you looking for your boyfriend, or...
But was it like battles or just...
No, just freestyle, freestyle. The battles arrived after Eminem, that's still just dropping just some rhymes. Top of the head, top of the head type of stuff.
But how was it? Because I'm guessing that you have to be sort of tough-skinned and be sort of really want to do it.
If you're not to become tough-skinned,
because as you said, the sharp elbows and people making fun of you for being there, and people like, did you feel that you were a bit disregarded or was it like some did and some didn't? Or?
Well, what happened is that I could see the first girls were either someone's relative or someone's girlfriend. So they would release stuff, and I was always very independent. I wasn't affiliated to any crew, I was just a free atom. So it took me a while to get respected, let's say so. But I guess that's what toughened me up, just experience.
Oh having to do stuff yourself and
having to continuously prove that you're worth something. That's I guess that's why.
Yeah, because I've heard the same story here in Denmark from
women.
Yeah, coming up, especially in that era.
I usually say I have it all wrong. I'm a woman. I'm blonde. I'm Italian, or not Italian, but sort of. So
yeah. Not the typical hip hop.
Hit
thing.
No, at all.
Makes sense, but when you were doing a lot of, you were already writing poems and lyrics before you started rapping.
Absolutely.
And what was it that captivated you about it? Was it the way you could express yourself, or was it like more of like the spitting lyrics, or was it what you could, or was it a whole?
I think I like the whole vibe. Yeah, expressing myself, entertaining a crowd.
Yeah,
which I really enjoyed. It wasn't even about the ego, but just having other people have fun with what I was doing. Properly entertaining, like the MC part of it. So that, and also, it was something different, but that would correspond to me for as I know myself, So I think I found something that belonged to me without even being able to explain why. So I just did it. I kept on doing it, and then I had the chance to speak languages, so that opened me up to other countries, and still hip-hop in Europe was very small, so that's how I got to meet Alliance Ethnique at the time, French group.
Legends.
And then I collaborated when I was in France with Sage Poète de la Rue, which is also another pioneering group. They came out with Jimmy J right after MC Solar. They collaborated with MC Solar, and then they did this album, Qu'est-ce qui fait marcher les sages, which is like a classic hip-hop French album. Yeah,
I'm not sure I know that, but I will check it out. But you talked about you speak both French, Italian, and English. So how you started writing? Was it in Italian first, or was it in English first?
No, in Italian. Absolutely, I started writing in Italian because I was in Italy, so I wanted people to understand me. And then I figured out that growing up bilingual because I was half French and half Italian, that I could use other languages. And then I picked up English when I was 9, 10. So I started putting some words in the beginning, just because it would sound different. I could make other rhymes, other flows. And then I figured out that it would have been interesting to write different lyrics and express different ways of being. That they say that when people are bilingual, they express different parts of their personalities through their languages.
With each language, Yeah, that's clear even with Danes just rapping in English, even though it's they just rap in English because that's what you were supposed to do. But how was it in Italy? Was most people rapping in Italian?
Italian.
Okay, because here it was like you had to rap in English at the beginning because it was not like original or proper if you weren't rapping in English.
Oh wow! Okay.
So that's interesting but that might also be a cultural thing because you do translate a lot to Italian.
Exactly, and not a lot of Italians know English, so it would sound great, but they just won't understand what you're talking about.
Exactly. That makes sense in some way. But so you were rapping for like how long before you started DJing?
I guess I started DJing at the end of the 90s, but I was a very insecure DJ, you know? So there was my mentor, Top Cat, who is also a pioneer, like an Italian-American pioneer who's now DJ in Miami. And he would buy records and bring them at my house because at that time he didn't have turntables as is.
Okay.
So that's how I learned a lot. And he taught me how to mix my 2 first records, and then he invited me to play at his birthday. And that was my baptism, I would say, you know, with the trembling hand on the needle, that kind of situation.
Yeah. The shimmers in the beginning,
Yeah, but then it took me a lot because for me, I was an MC. You know, I was an MC who loved records, who knew music, who had a lot of records, but I wasn't feeling I was a DJ for a long, long time. Until I think I started DJing more, not mixing much. And then when I moved to London, a little bit more than 10 years ago, I started really spinning like 2 or 3 nights per week. So that's when I considered myself, well, maybe I'm also a DJ, you know? Yeah.
So what do you consider yourself most now? DJ or an MC or just both?
I think I'm both. I think I'm both because it's been a while since I've released something as an MC, but I get called to do both. But of course, I play more as a DJ than I do shows, because it's easier to have a weekly gig as a DJ than having a weekly show at the same spot. So
makes sense.
It's the quantity, you know, it's just the quantity that makes me more of a DJ now. But in Italy, for instance, I am considered the MC before being the DJ.
Yeah, because that's what they knew you
because
for a long time.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But you were you're talking about you were living in Italy, but you were also going to France a lot when you were younger. And
when I was younger, because my grandmother was living in the French Riviera in Nice, and they had this amazing store called Fnac, which is like a music store, equipment, music, TV store, very famous in France. And that's when I started buying the first hip-hop cassettes and records, because in Italy you wouldn't really find much, you know. There was only one hip-hop record store in Milan, and they would receive, for instance, 2 copies of The Far Side or PIG, and you had to be there on that day and grab one of the 2, because if not, that was it.
Yeah, and you probably didn't know what was coming and didn't know it until you had listened to it back then also,
exactly.
So you had to
Exactly, and then, you know, it's like...
blind buy it. And
any record shop in the world, the more you see a customer, the more you get to know what they like,
and then first priority probably as well.
Like also, as I wasn't a DJ, you know.
Yeah, you wouldn't get the first pick.
I wouldn't get the first batch, but then I was one who would spend a lot of money there, so they would keep the records. They knew my taste by then, and
Nice, but what about you were traveling to France, but you were also traveling to other countries just to see hip hop back then, or?
Yeah, we would go to Switzerland because it was the closest place, let's say a 4 hours drive from Milan, the closest place where we could see hip-hop shows, because it was very, very, very rare to have hip-hop concerts there. So we started going to Zurich. That was the spot, the Rote Fabrik, mythical place where I saw, Wu-Tang with ODB, Artifacts, Far Side, I saw Diamond D. I saw Big Cap.
Oh, damn.
Big Cap when he released
I heard anything about Big Cap. But just him alone or with Flex? Or
no, just him alone. And I was doing just a set. But for me, he was the DJ who put like 5 women on the track. So
exactly. Yeah, but also just at that time, it probably was special to see just a DJ spinning just hip hop records, I would imagine, especially from the States.
Not in Switzerland.
Okay.
Not in Switzerland, but in Italy, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In Italy, we would have had. I remember we saw the Roots when they released their first album that we were talking about previously, and it was on a Sunday night next to Brescia, and it was just 50 of us. And it's very fun because that was the mid-90s, and then I got to New York in early 2000. I was at a party with a friend, and Black Thought saw me and a friend was like, I know you guys, like, how do you know us?
Yeah, you were one of the few.
Like, you were one of the few in our show in Italy. So
also,
funny.
that was like one of the first international tours, right?
Yeah.
So that probably also makes sense that they would remember a lot of stuff from that.
Yeah. And in Italy, they were considered jazz more than hip hop. This is how they got to tour there.
Actually, they sometimes are in Denmark. I saw them, the last time I saw the Roots was at the Danish International Jazz Festival.
See?
At like the Danish radio station building at their concert hall for the jazz festival.
But the good thing is that in those occasions, you had to meet the artist. You know, I saw, for instance, the first concert I went to where I met a hip hop artist was Guru with Jazzmatazz.
Ah, yeah.
So we're talking the first Jazzmatazz.
Like with live band or just
with a live band with Courtney Pine and Carlene Anderson. It was like 1993, and I told my mom I was going with Chief and Space at this concert in Turin, like 2 hours away. She's like, don't you have friends with normal names? I'm like, yeah, but Mom, you don't understand. I mean, they respect me, I respect them. Teenager thoughts.
But nice
it was great
that you were able to just find people to travel with to that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just you going alone.
No, but of course, I would have never been there, you know. It's because I had the luck to meet all these people in Milan that would chaperone me, you know, and understand that.
But
maybe,
were you a bit younger than them? Or
I was younger. I was 2 or 3 years younger than them.
Yeah, that's a lot when you're that age.
So yeah, it is. So they would see, you know, the little blonde girl who was trying to MC and write some rhymes, and yeah, they kept me with them, and they had me learning stuff, and they would teach me, explain, had me listen to music, had me listen to music, you know, where the samples were coming from, all the originals, and yeah.
But that's good because then you sort of get an introduction to the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's probably helped shape you as a DJ as well.
Also, absolutely. And it was a lot about the hip-hop culture in itself, more than just the different aspects of it, the different disciplines, you know. It was a lot about being united and each of us bringing something, you know, very personal, like their interpretation of the whole culture. But you had to know your hip-hop, you know, you had to study. You couldn't improvise. You had to drop rhymes that wouldn't sound like anybody else. You know, when I'm thinking about today where maybe I'm old, but everything sounds pretty much the same, you know? You had to develop your own flow.
Also, it was that even from my age, I'm born in 84, and even when, like, we were in the early 2000s, when you were at, like, a hip-hop festival we had, or jams, like, everyone had to have a verse, everyone had to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
Because it was just part of the hip-hop culture. I don't rap, but I had to have a verse. Really? Then I could spit all the time, because you had to have a verse. There would be ciphers outside, and everyone would have to spit a verse.
Same with b-boying. You had to know how to at least do an up-rock, you know? There was the basics.
Yeah, and you would have to be at least able to do, like, a throb or at least a good, you know, tag and stuff like that.
I tried graffitiing. That's when I realized it was better for me to write rhymes, you know, instead of writing things on the wall, because I really can't draw.
But it's also, I think that's the beauty for me about hip-hop culture, is that there's different elements, and you can figure out where you fit in and what you like and what's best for you. And some people change from one thing to another, or some people are diverse, or it's just whatever you do. Like, you started rapping, then you found DJing, and then you do both, and then but then you try something else, figure out that's not me, and then you figure out, okay, this might be interesting to try. And
it's funny because in Italy I noticed that there's a lot of rappers that come from writing and DJs that come from b-boying. I don't know if it's the same over here, but it's quite
a bit, but especially a lot of DJ, but actually a lot of rappers also back. A lot of the West Coast rappers were coming from b-boying, like back in the days as well.
But yeah, like Black Eyed Peas, for instance.
Oh yeah, but the West Coast,
even Denmark.
Yeah, the West Coast style, the ones who did like the West Coast style here.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them were like coming from breakdancing.
Because you have a West Coast and an East Coast in Denmark too.
We had a lot of like that, a lot of beef also with that.
Oh, right.
Like people were taking the whole culture within even the West Coast.
Oh, right.
But that was because in Denmark, I don't know how it was in Italy, but in Denmark it was a lot about you had like the downtown in Aarhus where I'm from. There was like the downtown scene, and then there was like the west of the city, which was like the ghettos area, like the more impoverished areas where there was a lot of immigrants. So they were often beefing with like the typical Danes, that was mostly East Coast hip hop heads, and the ones that were in the ghetto, probably more related to the South and West Coast with the storytelling about some of the stuff, and like also through a lot of the French stuff like Lahaine and all that sort of more ghettoish stuff. And they would like clash.
Oh, that's fun, yeah.
But they would also have different influences. And
I can dig that. Yeah. No, for us it was more the differences were coming more from different cities in Milan. If you were from in Milan in Italy, if you were from Milano, if you were in Rome and Naples, the accents were different, so the flows were different.
Oh yeah, that was also the same here. That was also the same here, but it was often like in the middle of the cities it was more East Coast, and outside the outskirts it was more West Coast often.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's always been an interesting thing, I feel. But how about so you had that whole, you were going to Switzerland, you were meeting a lot of the international artists.
Meeting a lot of artists, Yeah, I remember we were doing we were hanging around with this journalist, like a hip hop journalist. And me, this other girl, and this journalist from an Italian hip hop magazine. Okay. And I was translating for an Italian writing magazine.
Okay.
And I figured out that when we were going to Switzerland, she was saying that she was a journalist. She would get the free entrance and getting to interview the artists. And that's what was interesting, to me, like getting to meet the artists and interact with people that were coming from the birthplace of hip hop, from the States. So I told my people at the graffiti magazine, I was like, what do you think about starting interviewing, hip hop artists, to not only writers, but also musicians? Like, okay. So I started interacting with the artists. That's how I got to meet, Artifacts, Perry Smith. And then when Perry Smith came with Eric Sermon, he PMD'd, and I had already freestyle with Perry, and he told Eric Sermon, yo, you got to listen to this girl. So I got to freestyle for Eric Sermon. Then I met, a bunch of artists. I met Redman, AG was one of my favorite MCs.
Yeah, especially like that whole show in AG stuff.
Yeah. See, so I've been very blessed, and even with French culture, I got to meet a lot of the artists that I was just respecting and listening to, and sometimes it's disappointing because sometimes the human being is different from the artist.
There's the saying, you never want to meet your
but
idols.
But when it matches, it's great because sometimes it creates bonds. For instance, Artifacts, I met him in '96 when I went to New York in 2005. DJ Chaos took me record digging.
He was also so sweet, that guy.
Lovely person, lovely person, and he's very missed, very much missed. Yeah. And then I did a track with El the Sensei, a remix of one of my tracks. Yeah.
Because that's another interesting part of your story, because you moved to London.
Yeah.
That was what?
2012.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you got signed to BBE.
Yeah.
That was after you moved to London, right?
Yeah, because I moved to London and I was already starting working on an album, which took me a lot because I'm a hip hop artist and a hip hop head, but of course I'm doing a lot of other things in my life, so that kept me busy. But at a certain point in my life, I wanted to release an album, so I started recording all these tracks, and naturally they were all coming out in English. And my producer is French. He's one of the Cyan Super Crew's producers. Yeah. He's called Guyver Heidman. So props, Guyver. We love you. And so I was going back and forth from Milan to Paris and then from London to Paris and recording all these tracks. And at the end of the day, it was an album. So I started looking for labels, and I bumped into BBE, you know, when destiny has to happen that way. So it was just destiny. And I got to release that album with BBE. I feel very blessed about it. The cover was made by a great Italian writer, and she also did the videos. It's a woman also, so it was important for me too. And she's called Nyboe. And that's it, basically. I challenged myself because I didn't want to put forward the fact that I was rhyming in different languages. I just wanted to focus in English and see what would happen with that.
Also made sense because you were living in an English city and talking English every day. Probably.
Also, yeah.
Compared to if you were doing an English album living in Italy.
Yeah. And then there were a couple of tracks that became unreleased. They were like half French or half Italian. But yeah, I think it had to go that way.
But yeah, BB is also a very legendary label. So it must have been quite a cadeau to be able to release on that.
Yeah. See, I'm telling you, I'm feeling very blessed and complete in my hip hop career. You know, after I released that album, because I was also the producer, so I was taking care of everything. You know, I didn't have like a manager or the stylist or the video maker. We would take care of everything, me and my friend Nyboe, and that's very satisfactory, I would say. For me, it was okay. After I released that album, I was like, okay, I can stop and do something else now in my life.
So you started focusing more on the DJing after that?
I also started focusing more on the DJing.
Or was that also while you were doing the album?
At the same time, exactly, because I moved to London, we started DJing a lot. So I like that vibe too. And I found the difference between MCing and DJing is that when you're an MC, you go on stage, you do your live show, you have people in front of you when you have your songs and you just sing your songs and you're just there like, okay, that's me, listen to my thing, listen to my word, you know? But as a DJ, you have to be much more generous because you cannot not consider the people that you have in front of you, you know?
And you can also not demand attention for all 4 hours if you play 4 hours.
Exactly. So I love both aspects. I think they complete me in being a hip-hop head, as I told you. And I also felt the need to give women in Italy what I didn't have, so space. So I started in 2010 an event, yearly event called Ladies First, with a crew of ladies called Fly Girls Milano, and we've been doing this for 10 years, up to the pandemic, and then we stopped. We did our last show because they closed Italy. It was supposed to be our final festival, and it was on March 8th, and on March 8th, that's when they closed Italy.
So you had planned on it being the last show anyways, or?
Yeah, we didn't do it because...
but if it had happened, it would have still been the last, or?
Yes, because to me, it was the closing of a cycle.
Yeah.
And I was also experiencing a lot of difficulties finding women that I liked, that I wanted to
put forward.
Yeah.
But can you talk a bit more about that project? How it started, how you came up with it, how it was, how people accepted it or didn't?
Well, it started simply because I wanted to do a birthday party. And it became a big all-women party because I asked a girl and then she asked a friend and then, I contacted another couple of DJs and then writers and then breakers and then, so we put them all together. And it was so good that all of them wanted to do it again. And some of them were more into it than others. And they were like, let's form a crew and do the same thing next year, but better.
Yeah.
So every year we would try to make it better. And that's how I got to meet Tia, actually. Because a DJ friend of mine from the center of Italy knew Tia, I don't know how, but he put me in contact with her, and basically she put me in contact with this ONG called Free Muse that wanted to put forward women in music.
Yeah.
So they helped us with a little sponsoring, which allowed me to call women from a bit more afar. We invited Yara Bravo, we invited women from Southern Italy to come and perform. So it became something more seriously and more renowned in Italy as the spot for ladies to get known,
and also maybe be accepted a bit. Or was that?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was funny because the best feedbacks were coming from men. Not only because they would see women on stage, like, pussy, like Italian type of machista, but just enjoying the fact that they were entertained for a whole night with a sort of I would call it a female touch. So the way to make this whole night a proper show, like a non-stop show with like showcase it, dance showcase, and then the writers outside, and then there was a nails corner, and then just a whole
but not too much of that. They actually could rap, not that stuff.
No, absolutely. This is not what I wanted because I've been through that, and that's the opposite of what I wanted,
exactly.
And this is why after the second or the third year, we had on stage men too. It became natural too because some DJ friends were like, "Oh, can I DJ during your breaks?" And and then we had a track competition for men, women, anything. With nice prizes. We had Fila as a sponsor, so it was also inviting, and people would enjoy it just to be there both for the contest and for the show. It was one of the rare entertaining, non-stop entertaining nights in Milan. Yeah.
Okay, but that stopped right at the pandemic. Have you done something?
Well, at the pandemic, when it got canceled in 2020, we were all so disappointed, and then it took a whole year to get back into the vibe because it was always done around March 8th, the Friday closest to March 8th, of course, Women's Day. And in 2021, we decided to do it online.
So you live streamed it, or?
Yeah, we live streamed like 7-8 hours of events, and I had women like sending me showcases, like video showcases, and then we had the contest, and it was all done, with a live direct. It was very nice, but the human dimension was lost, of course. So I didn't want to do it online. I didn't want to do it live because the place where we used to do it live had changed management, and it wasn't the place that we wanted to do it at anymore. And then I think I also needed some time to do my things, and my own projects. I think I've given what I had to do. I've given back to women in hip hop what I had to, and now.
Yeah, but that's also good that you felt focused because you have had your journey through it. So you have also seen that people go through the same journey probably, and Do you feel any difference between what you went through when you were younger and what they go through now, or do you feel it's more the same still?
I don't know. I feel now in some ways being a woman is a plus, which necessarily wasn't when I was younger, It was a peculiarity. It was something that would differentiate you, but it didn't necessarily was a good thing, Now it's I can tell women got their spot, they got their energy. I can see what Tia is doing, for instance, they got their place. We got more room. I think it's this whole there are not enough women in the culture. This whole thing has been brainstormed enough for it not to be a topic anymore. So it's good. So I think it's the evolution,
Also, seeing from sort of the outside as a man, what I feel, at least from what I can see, has happened a lot is that for a long time it seemed that a lot of women thought that there were only a few spots, and they would compete for the same spots instead of like just helping each other out and creating more spots. So it was like they thought they had to compete with each other, even though they didn't need to.
And that's another thing that came out in my event, is that women had a safe spot where it wasn't about competition, but it was about creating something altogether. I think that's the most satisfactory thing that came out of it, just the connection between women,
Yeah, but at least in Denmark, it was like they thought there could be only like one female rapper or one like female DJ, and then they would like Haiti sort of like look side-eyed to each other because they were afraid they would take their spot, or that they would like feel that they had to compete even.
But that's also what I saw, between males when the music industry started opening towards rap in Italy. It was sort of they all wanted the whole cake instead of understanding that everyone could get a piece of the cake and we could maybe open a bakery. So yeah, I saw that also between males. So I think it's probably human. It's in Italian, in Latin they say "mors tua vita mea," so I get what I get, and what you don't get.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, I think the thing could just be that when it's mostly a male-dominated culture, so many more men will be there and few women. Then it can be different.
For years, being a minority, let's say so, being a minority, the thing that I would hear the most was, "You're good to be a woman," which is the worst thing you can tell. Exactly. So now it has changed. That's good. Luckily, we evolved. Maybe as humanity, we try to evolve as humanity.
That's good to hear. So you also, now you're traveling a lot. You're traveling a lot, DJing right now, right?
DJing and MCing, but yeah.
So how is it like? Do you feel there's a difference between how you approach as a vinyl DJ going to different countries, or like how the scene is and how it's?
Not really. There are some moments where I feel this being a woman, like, you're good to be a woman, or you're somebody's girlfriend, comes out again, for instance, when there's a problem with fixing the equipment. Because of course I've been playing a lot, so I know all the tricks for turntables, wires and everything, and sometimes I just let like the three men hanging, dealing with this thing. I'm like, maybe we could, no, let us deal with it. And then half an hour, I'm like, okay, can I try just one little thing? And then I, solve the issue. And I always have this feeling of male going like, how does she know this thing? How didn't we fix it,
Yeah, the stereotype that it has to be that, and you can't know it if you're a woman.
Yeah, it's a bit sad when it happens. But then I also find a lot of joy of men having a woman behind deck that knows and that is passionate as much as they are. So it's good.
Yeah, I think also passion is just the best thing to unite.
Yeah.
Most people appreciate passion.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I'm going to say something I don't know, because I've been thinking about it, for quite a few years, about men into hip-hop and women into hip-hop. And I figured out that from what I saw, from so many examples that I saw around me, women sometimes get to face things in life, children mostly, that have other priorities, while men can remain kids a bit more. Do you know what I'm saying?
They don't have to grow up the same way. Yeah.
Exactly. It's very delicate I'm trying to say it in the best way, but that's what I think. You men can cultivate your inner kid longer than women, just in where life brings you to. So maybe, I don't know, I'm keeping my inner kid alive, just like guys do, so I'm a bit of a tomboy for that. But
yeah, but I also think to do what we're doing, DJing, being an artist, you have to be a big kid, sort of.
Yeah,
because it's more of a passion thing. It's more of like something that you want to do, that is not necessarily about like building a life or like steady income or whatever. It's more about, and you have to do it because you want to do it, not because.
And then again, it's a passion, but on the other hand, it's also a job.
Yeah.
So it depends on how you want to do it, what sort of compromises you want to take. On the music that you want to play, or places where you want to go, how big of a club you want to play. So even in hip hop, what sort of hip hop do you want to play? Hip hop for the masses? Or, hip hop that makes like 20 people nod their head but makes you happy too when you play it.
Yeah, exactly.
It
but
depends.
that also comes into like the being a big kid, because I'm sort of like the big kid that doesn't want to do anything I don't like, there's no compromise.
Yeah.
And that's also, but you also have to be in a privileged situation to be able to.
Absolutely.
To do that, because.
Absolutely.
You have to not be at a point where you have to worry too much about all the other stuff.
Yeah, well.
So as you're saying, if you have a kid, if you have to take care of that all the time, and if you have to take care of the kid and doesn't have time to work that much, then compromises are easier to make, or what do you say? It's a different thing.
Yeah, but
than not having the responsibility.
But then again, I think life is a compromise, so you just have to choose which ones you're willing to take.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I have friends who DJ full time, but then they DJ in clubs that they're not happy to play in. You know? They come back home and they're like frustrated. I hated the music. Yeah, I play that music, but I don't like it. I'm like, how can you do it like 3 nights a week for like? I mean,
Wouldn't
I understand.
it be better just going to like a factory working you don't like either?
Yeah, and then maybe play just a couple of gigs. Again, it's choices, you know, and it's very personal. So I think I found my right balance. So I'm very happy with the jobs that I do and the life that I have that allows me to travel, DJ, use my different skills and apply them in different fields.
Also, as an artist, I think it can be hard to do that over a longer period of time because
true. I feel very
everything
blessed.
evolves.
Yeah.
Because what you were doing 10, 20 years ago is not what you cannot be doing the same thing.
True.
For it to, unless you have a name, but then maybe you still cannot do it. Like, you can see some old DJs that play the same thing they done for 30 years, but they're shitty live. So it's, you know.
Yeah.
You have to evolve with something.
Yeah. True that.
And that can be hard.
Yeah.
Doing while you're doing all that.
Yeah, and someone told me recently in Italy, they're like, you must be the most longevous, you know, hip hop artist, like female hip hop artist in Italy for sure, you know, or maybe in Europe, because I've been in hip hop culture for 30 years. I've evolved in the hip hop culture for 30 years. So it's, 30 out of 50 years of hip hop. I was there, like Kariswan would say. So, of course, it influences your whole life, you know?
Yeah, also because it, to me at least, hip hop is a whole culture. It is the whole life. It's entrenched in so many ways. Because you used it for an outlet for your feelings, for your lyrics. Because you used the music as an outlet probably for your feelings as well, and as an outlet for something else. You use it to gain something from audience response and from like happiness through that. It is
very true.
Such a big part of your life that, you know, it's part of your daily life, and if it's not there, it will be
hard. You don't feel complete.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I couldn't imagine my life without music, without hip hop, without all the connections that I have and that I have had worldwide through hip hop. Wherever I go, I mean, sorry, I'm saying, one of my sayings is, home is where the techniques are, you know? Home is where the 1200s are, because it's true. I've been all around the world, and you just see a tag. You go to someone's house, for instance, at your place. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course, I know these records, of course. Wherever you go, you can bring your records, and you have 2 turntables, and you're at home.
But also you can unite with a lot of people through that. So you can go to a place you've never been before, meet people, and instantly
connect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As we were saying previously while we were eating.
Yeah, you know them through something.
Yeah.
Maybe you come there and then they're not there, but they might have booked you and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I have a friend, a female MC in Australia, who spent her teenage years in Italy, right? And now she's back in Australia, and she got back to Italy this year. We met each other again after, we were in our 20s, and now we're almost in our 50s. Well, and it was like meeting the previous day, it was so easy and so nice and so natural for us to meet again and spend time together. And she's ready for me to get there in Australia, doing a showcase and DJing. So I mean, I know I have amazing connections worldwide through hip-hop. I feel very blessed about it.
That's great. One other thing, you travel a lot and you bring vinyls. You mostly do 7 inches now because of the weight.
Yeah.
But what about crate digging? Do you buy a lot of records when you're traveling, or do you mostly buy records when you're at home? Or
it's a drug. So you try not to buy a lot of records, but then when you find yourself digging, it's hard not to buy those records. It's pretty sort of a addict mechanism.
Yeah.
So it depends on my suitcase. Actually, it depends on my suitcase. And now I live in a tiny apartment in Milan, and I have half of my records in a deposit in a storage. So this is why I try to mostly buy 7-inch records now, because it's the ones I play. But of course, there are some albums, there are some 12s that when you see them, you cannot not buy them. Or you have the CD, and the CD, is not as reliable as the vinyl.
Yeah, they might not last 20 years, and a lot of them are 20 years plus old. So.
Exactly. So sometimes when I find the vinyl, and I knew that I've burned that CD so many times, I just buy it on record.
Yeah, that makes sense. But are you also like digging for local stuff when you're out, or is it more just whatever you find?
No,
stuff you're looking for?
To be honest, I'm not very curious about local hip hop. I'd rather see live. I'd rather see the artist live, and then if I really like it, then support and buy the album. For instance, I'm very connected with Sardinia, which is an island in Milan, one of the 2 Italian islands. Sorry. Yeah. And Sardinian rap and Sardinian reggae scenes are amazing, but in Italy no one knows about them. So I try to support them, and make posts about them. And there are very good MCs. And after the hip hop female project that I was telling you about, out of it, I created a Sardinian female festival about female and arts. So multidisciplinary. There are dancers like from belly dancers to painters. It's not hip hop anymore, but it's also hip hop and reggae, and the whole spirit is very hip hop. So I do that now. I take care of showcasing other women and supporting. Like when they say support your local artists, well, I support local artists. Maybe not from my place necessarily, but people I think that are stylish enough to be known by more people than they are.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So do you when you play a lot abroad, is it through social media now? A lot of it is booked, or is it just having played so much that you know people?
Both, absolutely, both. Yeah, both in Italy and in Europe. Yeah, that's how it happens.
Makes sense. We're more or less running out of time now. So, do you have anything else you would like to talk about or let?
But no, if you guys are curious, just go check my music, Vaitea. You can find on YouTube. You can find some tracks there. You have a Mixcloud, SoundCloud, all that. Follow me, on Instagram. I'll follow you back. And if you got any questions, just write me and I'll let you know more about it. I think I've told you a lot about myself. I'm not very good, talking about myself.
No, but
I'm the one usually interviewing others. So
but it's interesting to hear because it's also there's some differences culture-wise as well from you being from Italy and how stuff works and how. But it's also interesting to see how the hip hop culture has been compared to putting them next to each other.
Yeah. But I might write a book one day where I have a lot of anecdotes about my path as a blonde MC. So
yeah, makes sense. But thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Peace out.